moving on to agenda item 5, request for input regarding 2014 technical assistance requests, information and discussion. Justin.
Thank you, committee members. This is always the fun one for me because this is where we get goodies. Every year the Federal Office of Emergency Communications, Interoperable Communications Technical Assistance Program releases a catalog of TA offerings to the states and allows the states to apply for non-monetary grants. These are awards of consulting hours in things like engineering analysis, governance development, policy document development, that type of a thing. The purpose of the ICTAP program, Interoperable Communications Technical Assistance Program, is to support the ability of emergency responders and officials to communicate in the event of natural disasters, terrorism, other man-made disasters, and accelerate and attain operable and interoperable emergency communications nationwide. So this is a program at the federal level, but it's specifically geared towards helping states out, improving their interoperable communication. As such, the Public Safety Interoperable Communications, my office, submits the request annually to the Federal Office of Emergency Communications on behalf of state and local agencies. The guidance this year has changed somewhat from previous years. There is a new catalog that's been released and it's available online. We sent an email out about it in early August to all of our interested parties list. Some of the key elements of what needs to be a part of the TA request or what requests will be allowed. The request must support identified SCIP initiatives and identified gaps. We're very fortunate that I believe we have a strong strategic plan here in Arizona, and so almost any of the available offerings within the catalog will fit underneath one of the strategic plans, but we do need to make sure that whatever requests get submitted align with the SCIP. Each state is allowed to apply for up to 5 TA requests every year. This year, OEC is going to be prioritizing requests that are either in support of broadband and SCIP goals for multi-state collaboration and preparedness. So either supporting broadband or if it's SCIP goals that relate to multi-state collaboration and preparedness. That is the focus on the national level right now. The requests certainly do not have to be specific to either of those two things or unique to them. However, any requests that we make that do fall under those two goals will end up being prioritized above the other requests that get submitted.
They prioritize them nationally, not just state.
Nationally, correct. There is a significant amount of funding that OEC has made available for the technical assistance program, and our experience over the last several years has been, even though we only apply for 5, we tend to get almost all of them. Every state will get at least 1 TA. That's the bare minimum. In the past, some of the priorities have been support for the UASIs initially, then it migrated over to NECP Goal 2 gap closure activities. This year, their focus is on interstate collaboration and broadband planning. We have found, particularly towards the end of the federal fiscal year, that we have been very successful in getting additional TAs beyond just the initial ones requested. Last year, we actually received 5 TAs through the OEC ICTAP program. Early in the year, the first one we received, which was our Goal 2 kind of gap closure TA, was a tabletop exercise for Coconino County. We also received a comms unit technician training course. As you know, those are very expensive to put on compared to all the other courses, so it was great that we were able to get that comms course. That one was held, I'm glad you're here. I know that's not the Eagle one, I believe that was the Flagstaff one. Thank you. Then we, as part of the statewide strategic initiative to implement and sustain the Strategic Technology Reserve, we requested an MCU support TA, and initially it was to develop an SOP and concept of operations document for the bullfrog. We expanded that in our initial meetings to the concept of operations / SOP both for the larger bullfrog and all 5 of the toads. After working since early January, late December on this, and having really good relations with the feds, we continued to develop it, and the feds decided that they wanted to beta test a concept of a video SOP. And so they chose Arizona for an additional TA to have a video SOP developed. Even though both of these stay in progress, I'm happy to report that as of last Friday, both of those are complete. We have the full, complete SOPs now for all of the toads. They will be distributed out to the local or to the counties that maintain those 5 vehicles. And there will need to be some minor tweaks done at the county level based on whatever customizations they may have done. We also have a great video SOP that was developed, and I would strongly encourage folks to attend our PSCC meeting in 2 weeks for more on that. Then the 5th TA that we received last year, towards actually late this summer, was an engineering broadband related TA. This TA will actually support us in a number of different ways for our broadband planning efforts, in particular on some of our outreach efforts, our data collection efforts. There will be some surveys involved. We're looking to do a stakeholder workshop coming up either most likely later this fall. So we received all of those from the OEC ICTAP program. In addition to that, the City of Yuma is a grantee with the Border Interoperability Demonstration Project. This is also a federal Homeland Security grant program, and it has its own separate TA program, but that it follows the exact same category. It's just administered differently because of different set of funds. So Yuma was able to receive an update to their TIC-P, a TIC FOG field operator's guide based on their TIC-P, a communications-focused functional exercise, which is actually coming up here in October. We've been doing a series of planning sessions with the folks down at YRCS. A communications-focused exercise workshop that was held last month, and that was made available online for others to participate in. And then, as of last Friday, they've also now received a TA award for the development of SOPs for their records management system that is being expanded as part of the DITP program. So overall, between these 2 programs, just last year, Arizona was able to receive 9 separate TAs. I certainly am not promising that we will be that successful next year, but as you can see, we have been able to acquire a great deal of support to continue advancing SCIP initiatives, ensuring that we're helping out where it's currently needed at the state and local level. So for this year's technical assistance request, on August 6th, we sent out the catalog, or the catalog was released. On the 21st, we posted it to our website and sent it out to our email list. Today, we're going to be asking for your feedback on which TA items you believe that Arizona should request, which SCIP initiatives you think we should be prioritizing right now, and look for assistance related to those. We have asked for comments back from the public by September 10th. Today, we have not received any comments from the public, although I do expect to receive some by the 10th. At the September PSCC meeting, we'll also do a presentation to get the PSCC feedback. September 23rd, as part of the TA request process, our office, as the Office of the SWIC, has to meet with Homeland Security, the state administrative agent, and get their concurrence on the TA request for the state. And then by September 27th, we hope to have our request submitted to the Fed. I would note that the feds right now are asking people to submit their requests as soon as possible. This year we I was on a conference call last week, and apparently 20 states have already submitted their requests. In many states, the SIEC office simply puts in the request, but we have established a tradition and more a informal policy, if you will, of always requesting stakeholder feedback and going before both bodies for your recommendations on this. So we're going to continue to do that, and this schedule here will allow us to make sure we get feedback on these requests for next year.
Justin, does it make a difference from the Fed's perspective which ones come in sooner, or there's a deadline as long as you meet that deadline?
They cannot actually, the only difference, and the reason why we're kind of compressed here by the September 27th deadline is the Feds will not be able to begin awarding until October 1st with their fiscal year. So we'll be able to get it in there. The traditional path that they have followed is to issue out one award per state right away in a first wave, and then beginning around January, starting a second wave of awards as resources become available. They have a set number of contractors, facilitators, and experts that they work with on this, and so from their resource scheduling, they give everybody one, and as those resources get filled up, they start to award out more. There are some states that have had problems with completing their TA requests in a timely fashion, and so that's why you have some states that end up only getting one or two requests, and other states that are able to keep going. We keep a very strong relationship with OAC and the administrators of this program, so that as we finished our Coconino TTX, we immediately went back with them and said, we're now available. Oh, I'm sorry, I did forget one. On the previous slide, through the Tribal Nations Technical Assistance Program is also a third TA program that follows the same model. The Navajo Nation here in Arizona has received a technical assistance award as well, and we're early on working with Rose Whitehair, their emergency manager, and the contractors to facilitate their technical assistance. So that is a separate one awarded directly to the Navajo Nation from a federal to tribal relationship, but we're still helping out. That will be executive level training on public safety interoperable communications to really train and bring up their executive level on what is needed for interoperable communications, where they're at now, what policies and procedures their chiefs, police chiefs, etc. should have, followed up by an analysis at an upcoming pre-planned event on kind of how things went, gap identification, gap closure type of activities. So with that, I'd like to kind of go through the 5 different lanes of continuum, the continuum and our SCIP initiatives, and really get your feedback on which assistance requests you believe should be given higher priority, which requests should not be prioritized at all that you feel we absolutely shouldn't ask for, and then also not only what requests support our SCIP initiatives, but what requests are going to support your 2013-2014 interoperability initiatives. So thinking forward to next year, typically these get awarded around the first wave around October-November timeframe, with additional waves starting in 2014. Everything has to be finished up though by the end of the federal fiscal year, and actually it was for this year it was last Friday. Was the deadline. So it's really early September when the TAs need to be finished. Within the governance lane, the Initiative 1, expanding interoperable voice and data communications governance model and plan, including the annual SCIP update. Obviously there is a TA there for statewide planning workshop on how to incorporate broadband, in particular governance planning for broadband. We are going to be requesting a SCIP implementation workshop from OEC that is separate from the TA program. So I don't believe that it would be appropriate at this time to use up a TA in order to update the SCIP. We have both funds available as part of the SIEC grant, broadband grant, as well as the SCIP implementation workshop. However, one of the big focuses over the next year is structures down at the county level. Obviously, Yuma, Pima, Maricopa counties all have fairly advanced governance structures, both at the regional system level, the UASI level, etc. We have informal governance structures. Pinal County is a good example with their Pinal County Radio Communications Consortium of that kind of regional county level governance. We're going to continue next year. That is a priority in our office. And certainly if there are counties that are ready to move forward and interested in moving forward on developing these types of governance structures, we will support them.
So based on that, we don't need to go after that.
Yes, unless you all have any additional...
It sounds like we have some other money that's still on that plan side from the current year.
There are funds available for supporting this strategic initiative right now. The one area I would throw out is if there is a county that would like to step forward and feels they're prepared over the next 9 to 12 months to advance in this area, we certainly want to hear from them. And if they would like that, the federal assistance as well as our office, then that's maybe an area they should look into. And then that's really the second level here, the expanding the regional governance structures. Some of the events, I've listed some of the key request items that might fall under this SIEC initiative. I'll note by the end of this year, all 15 counties will now have approved TIC fees. Some of the counties, their TIC fee may be older. If it's only minor changes that have happened, then I think our office working with that county can probably do the TIC fee update internally. If there's been lots of changes, new systems that have come online, etc., the TIC fee update workshop might be appropriate for that county. This is also an area where CASM, assessment of existing governance structures, that type of thing falls under. And then the final SIEC initiative under governance is implementing a strategy to supporting national level goals. The initiative doesn't kind of really say this, but the objectives here, this is the initiative that deals with, at one point, narrowbanding, broadband implementation, NECP Goal 1, Goal 2 assessment, implementation of plain language. So this initiative kind of encompasses all of those national level NECP objectives. There are a number of broadband ones that obviously fall under this, and we currently have a broadband TA that we'll be using, and we expect this is certainly an area that as we continue to develop our broadband program, we'll be able to continue to go back to OEC and continue to request additional assistance throughout the year. The Principles of Interoperability in the NIPOG is an interesting class. I don't know that I would recommend it, although if there are folks that have a strong desire for that type of a training, we can look into it. The one that might be appropriate here for at a local level is the operational communications assessment. If there are jurisdictions, counties, regions that went to the assessment of their current operational communications to look at how they can be improved, this may be an appropriate TA. I would note, however, that in order for it to be aligned with the SIEC, it will need to be advancing the strategy of supporting regional shared systems. So a TA that simply looks at a single agency system for purposes of improving the operational communications for a single agency would not be in alignment with the SIEC. But if there are agencies that are discussing consolidation, methods of sharing those types of things, then this would be a good TA to look at. Any thoughts, questions? I know we've done an awful lot on governance in the last several years.
Kind of my question is, current TA we have for broadband outreach planning data collections is under technical side, not under governance. Do we need to look at one under governance if that's a priority nationally? Or?
A lot of the state and local implementation grant program, basically the broadband grant program that Michael will talk about in a minute, a lot of the core allowable activities there are to advance the state in terms of planning, governance, preparation for the National Public Safety Broadband. So there's already a significant amount of funds there. I think as we continue our initial project planning on that program, we know there's already some TAs that we've been awarded and will keep getting related to broadband. I think my initial feeling is we're going to have the resources necessary, and that if there are more priorities or higher priorities for improving interoperable communications, we should use the TAs for those. However, as you see, there are a lot of broadband TAs that are out there, and Michael has had a great relationship with Brian Hobbs, federal TA person working on all of this. So my feeling, and certainly step in, I would agree, get what we want without asking.
So under the governance, since that's kind of the end of this, is there one there that you guys really think is a priority? It sounded like you've done a lot of governance, maybe go back and look at that, but there really wasn't one there that jumped out. You got to go after this.
From our office, I think that the governance TAs are best for local agencies that are ready to move forward. Either the operational communications assessment or the regional governance assessment, governance model development type one. At a state level, I think we've had a very mature and governance model now that's been established for quite some time. And I don't know that using the TA would be perfect.
We'll see what public comment comes in, but
yeah.
Committee, I'm good with not recommending Route 1.
Come on, Pete. Yell at me. In the SOP lane, we have one initiative to establish our policy standards, procedures framework, implement the PSPs. In the past, we used an awful lot of these. A lot of our initial governance work here in Arizona and our our operating principles documents for both the SEC and SIEC were developed in part with TAs. There are SOP assessment TAs, development. If you have a specific SOP that is looking to be developed, you have new equipment. For example, in Yuma, their new records management system and CAD system, they're just going to develop an SOP. These are very good TAs. They're very valuable because the TA facilitators come out, listen to everything, ask lots of questions, collect a whole bunch of technical information, and they do all the drafting, and through a series of conference calls and meetings, work through to get a very high-quality product. The one TA that we have looked at in the past that might be appropriate at this time, now that we have 15 countywide TIC-Ps, or when we do at the end of the year, and then the state-level TIC-P that we're hoping to have here shortly, it may be appropriate to start looking at developing a state FOG. This is something that we've looked at in the past. It can be quite expensive. The average cost is about $40 per book. We kind of earlier in the year looked into some of these types of things. The Phoenix-Uwasi, Arizona Central region has a FOG, and Yuma County currently has a FOG. I think from a cost standpoint, it probably doesn't make sense for every county to develop their own FOG. It would be more appropriate to develop one statewide. The issue is that a priority for improving interoperable communications right now, or are there other priorities that would outweigh that?
And we can look at those. That's the one I put a little highlight by, thinking that looked interesting to me.
I think the FOG is important because a lot of folks do have the channels programmed to radio, they don't even realize it, so that might incite them by reading the FOG that, well, maybe I need to be trained on my radio to find these channels that I actually already have. request a spot audit to just go around and pick responder A, responder B, you know how they use the interoperable channels. That would give us an idea what our gap is, where if it needs to be education outreach versus do we need to seek more programming dollars to get programming done out there?
I'm not aware of any TAs that specifically conform to that. However, OEC certainly has been very flexible in working with us and redefining some of their TA offerings to really meet our state or local need. So certainly that is an option.
It might help us identify where our gaps are, where we need to put our emphasis, whether it's more programming or more just training, or the FOBs would serve as a good reminder. That might be an efficient tool. There's been some instances lately where people were freaking they didn't have it programmed in until somebody showed them, oh, they are in my radio.
Yeah, I should mention there is a
job, or is that something outreach through your...
You know, that might be something that our office, once we're fully staffed, can go back and look at. As you know, we're a little bit short compared to where we were during the Goal 2 assessment process, but certainly I realize that's been a priority of this committee, is to understand where we currently stand with both AIRS implementation and the interop channels plan implementation, and to continue to advance that. Because it is something that we hear anecdotally all the time of, I don't have that. And then, you know, this just came up. It came up both at the statewide planning workshop, Pete, and then it came up at the UMA exercise, where one of the participating agencies had no idea they had a particular deck available to them. The technology area, and not to you know, take any steam away from this program, there are two things that the technology TAs don't do. It doesn't buy technology, and it doesn't pay to reprogram technology. So those ones aren't there. However, there are an awful lot of technology level technical assistance, particularly in the assessment, engineering, analysis type of TAs that are available. The initiative to enhance and promote AIRS, our office hasn't identified any potential TAs that really can support the current efforts that we're working on within AIRS. Same thing with the microwave backbone, the upgrade of that backbone. That initiative involves money. It involves buying the equipment and getting the equipment installed, and TAs just really aren't appropriate for that. With the sustainment of the state STR, obviously we did 2 this year. There's another one that's new this year, the Strategic Technology Reserve Emergency Management Assistance Compact. This aligns with what the national level goal of, you know, improving multi-state collaboration. Really what they're focusing there is Homeland Security has been buying all this equipment. They want to make sure that those assets are being shared, that, you know, Nevada and Arizona are working together appropriately, and when assets need to be shared, they are. Pete, as an emergency manager, I'll kind of defer to you on whether AZPSIC and other efforts are appropriate for
the agreements
SCR. Additional effort is needed there.
There's already agreements in place. We just need to sustain practicing and using them rather than creating more agreements.
I mean, from my perspective, it seems it's been more of an outreach, education type of a challenge than a governance, you know, agreement challenge.
Well, the first thing always comes, I know everybody says it isn't, but it's like the money aspect. If I'm going to share this, where am I going to get paid? Well, if you got to buy off a grant, what are you really entitled to? The maintenance piece or the full cost reimbursement of the use of the resource? Those are things that have to get worked out. Otherwise, people are just going to hang out of their stuff and not share how much you're going to pay me. If we get to that, then it's useless. Then we never should have bought those caches in the first place. So.
And that could be an area where we can look at today to kind of evaluate that and figure out how to properly policy that. That's a word. Can I take policy and turn it into a verb? And then the last one, upgrading operable communication systems for state agencies in support of interoperability. And again, this is an initiative that is primarily about state-level communication systems and improving in the technology upgrades. So that most likely there are no TAs in this area, but of course state agencies have specific TAs that they have in mind that fit under this. We'll certainly take those into consideration. The big one at the local level is to implement, enhance, and promote functional regional voice and data systems in support of interoperable comms. This is the initiative that is really geared towards local, county, regional communications in support of those efforts. Not going to go through all of them. You know, people do have gateways and need training that's available. If they're looking at LMR system migration, I apologize, there does look to be a radio programming and training one. I haven't seen that one before. There are a number of technical engineering type TAs that are available. So if there are agencies that are interested, I would encourage them to look at that and submit a request or comment, feedback to our office with the understanding that the point is for the implement, enhance, promote functional regional systems. Obviously, to support interoperable communications, but we all recognize that you have to have operable to have interoperable. Within the training lane, another area we've been very successful at getting TAs. We have two initiatives under training and exercise. One is, develop and implement a training plan to address interoperable comms, and in particular supporting the ComL and ComTeam training program. There is a governance level communications unit planning and policies workshop that's available. I think you would agree that our comms program is fairly well mature right now and advanced, and I believe that this TA was actually based off of a lot of the work that Arizona and a few of the other early mover states developed. There's obviously ComL training classes available. We have funds this year to do some additional ComL courses. For 2014, assuming that all the Homeland Security grants get funded at their expected level, we'll be able to provide an additional 5 ComL courses through our office and 1 more ComT course. There is now an offering that's new this year for a ComT Train the Trainer course. I would highly recommend that one, so certainly want your feedback on that. One of the reasons we've been successful in offering as many ComL courses as we have is that we have here in Arizona 9 ComL trainers, as well as there's hundreds nationwide, and so the cost per course is relatively low because of the availability of instructors. On the ComT side, there are only 3 companies nationally that were initially approved to be able to teach the ComT course. Now that this is rolling out, we expect there will be more ComT instructors nationally, and we do have 2 ComT instructors here in Arizona, Dan Wills and Mike Burrell. Both of those, however, are contractors with Search, one of the 3 companies. So it would certainly behoove us to create an Arizona cadre of instructors in the ComT class, the way we've done the ComL class, so that we can bring the cost of that course down. The other request, of course, is just requesting a specific ComT course on its own, and that's something the last 2 years we've been, last year we received 2, and the year before we received 1.
So I hear you say we do have money for another one?
Assuming all the grants are approved. Right now, the Central RAC has approved $25,000 for the comms training program from fallout funds from last year. All of the other RACs approved varying levels between $10,000 and $25,000. That program will support the field day next year as the top priority, then an additional ComT course, then up to 5 ComL classes, all depending on funding.
So with that, we would really need to look at the size or the other one slide that, because we talked about the trainer. And sliders also the exercise.
Right, so within the comms program, and I probably should have done the agenda a little better to have Glade 250 now, I believe, COML students have attended the class. One of the core gaps, we do still have a gap of trained COMTs, definitely in the state. I think on the COML side, we're getting much closer. The gap that we're now having is after they have attended the course, they have to get their task book signed off. And it's the ability for the trainees to attend events and exercises and get those tasks signed off that is kind of what the gate is right now, that's holding up progress. From the COMT side, though, given the cost of these courses and the relatively few number of students that have attended, I do believe there still is. The issue is what's the priority? Developing train the trainer or waxing the second class.
Always been trainers on this important to keep costs. Also want to overlooking the need to get their tasks signed. So that's where I'm wondering if we should look at some of these exercises also.
And that was
We mentioned a field day available, if all those other funds. Is that enough or do we need to look at it?
the field day will certainly help. I think our experience from last year is there was a great number of tasks that were able to be signed off. However, it's not enough on its own to go all the way through it. I mean, part of it is that these individuals need to have the number of tests and complexity, so just one event isn't going to be sufficient normally. There are lots of things within that program that I think we really need to look at. Things, mentoring type programs, information sharing, outreach type of programs. Foreign exchange, exactly. Send some people up to Flagstaff during the summer, get out of the heat here, that type of a thing. The other area with this is the COML exercise or communications unit exercise. These are fairly similar to our field day, although it looks like those are actually 2 days instead of just 1 day. And that would give us the second kind of bite at the apple on that one. And that one is a full-on exercise for the field day is while ran as a training project, this one goes through the entire process. I'm not going to say it's HD compliant. It's probably HD compatible. It certainly follows the principles of HD.
It's not AC compatible?
It is compatible. I don't want to say it's HD compliant because there are times where OEC does not go through all the steps that are needed on HD. I don't know for certain one way or the other whether they do that on this.
You just have to be very careful how anybody else spending their money in
Exactly. And so that would be something we would obviously have to make sure of beforehand when we're implementing it.
My thought on that is, and it seems like it would be good to maybe have the field day first and then have an exercise like that, a 2-day exercise with folks that have already gone through the field day and kind of just been exposed to another station type thing and reap the benefits that we heard from Jesse's presentation up in Flagstaff. Then they could go into an exercise, get more of their books, task books signed off, plus a higher level of usage of their skills.
And that's, I think, the core difference there is, without taking away from the field day, an exercise is almost just graded activity. We're not doing much training in an exercise. It's do you know it or don't you know it? And the field day kind of was both. It was both the training and an assessment towards the end of, okay, do you now know what you're doing? Strategy, COML exercise, I think we already talked about. Communication-focused exercise design. Local jurisdictions are interested in tabletops. I think the executive tabletops could be an option in some areas, although a full tabletop exercise is usually more appropriate to skip. The one kind of contingent on that is that there really needs to be a strong purpose identified not just to do the exercise, but for example with Coconino, they had gone through and done a ton of work closing their goal 2 gaps. They had gotten a populated SIEC, and so the function or purpose of their table to test out all the changes and updates they had made and to find out, did that progress make a difference, and find additional things. Same thing with Yuma, all the technology that they had implemented as part of the INPI program. Those will be critical in a TTX request they can put in.
The executive level short time frame?
It's a little bit shorter. I mean, it still goes through the initial planning meeting now, not conference. I don't think the tabletop after action conference. It's the participants are different in there. It's just a higher level of participants.
What's the audience level for the executive?
It really is much more geared toward police, incident commanders, policy decision maker type folks. At the executive level, you would not be bringing in, the dispatch operators or comm balance, etc. And it's kind of more geared for, do you know what your policies are and how they should be implemented and what happens when they are? The full tabletop exercise really gives the opportunity for the executives to sit around the table or to sit around the outside of the room and watch the practitioners talk through how they would do everything. I just feel that the full tabletop kind of accomplishes both. Executives attend and watch the tabletop, and then they find out whether or not those policies and procedures are actually working the way they thought they would be.
And at a time of year, you're going to get about 4 hours of their time, and that's it.
Exactly.
So if you think you're going to get it for 2 days, that's pretty rough and rare.
Yeah, the executives tabletop, those tend to be much shorter than the tabletop exercise. The planning staff, and usually there's a planning team of 4, 5, 6 people, not the executives would not be part of the planning team. And then lastly is the usage lane. Obviously at the state level, it's about creating and implementing the education and outreach plan. There are really no TAs that fall under that. There are a couple of special TA offerings, in particular the special tribal TA. Right now, tribes in Arizona, if they have completed their Goal 2 assessments with the feds, they are eligible to apply through the tribal program. Of course, tribes in Arizona are also eligible to request assistance through our office as part of the state TA. The other one that's out there is the Public Safety Communications Project Management. We were a beta tester on that one 2 years ago, I believe it was now. That was a fairly good one. I guess the feedback on that is, are there enough projects ongoing right now where that's a valuable and needed thing?
Do we know how many have been through Goal 2 terminations?
No. No. At the state level, we only assess counties. In some counties, there was a number of tribal agencies and nations that participated in that process, but that's a direct tribal to Fed relationship there. So with that, again, there's the timeline. Certainly, any additional comments, thoughts that the body has now? If not, please, by September 10th, any other comments or requests, please submit them to our office. We hope to final discussion at the next PSCC meeting with the concurrence and then submission by the end of this month.
What I highlighted here was the statewide SIEC file. That I think would be a good one. So, Congressman Trainer, I think that's one. But I'd at least like to have out there ML exercise, or one of the exercises. That sounded like 2 days. It would be done after field day. With some time in there, but something where our ComL bank teams can work on the task with the department and break exposure. So that's kind of the 3 that I highlighted on all these. Mike, do you have anything? You okay with group, anything? How about the audience as we stand now? Susan?
I would just want to say the Common exercise, I think is a great follow-on to field day, but one thing to keep in mind and consider is that the way that it's structured through ICCAP, you're looking at running through a Common exercise, maybe 6 individuals per day. So if you did it 2 days, if you cannot be 2 days, you're looking at maybe 12 individuals. So that'd be something to keep in mind. 27 people that we trained at the field day this year, and depending on how many people you train at the field day in 2014, there may be a larger number of people who want to get into the exercise, and you'll have to figure out a mechanism to narrow it down.
And that is one of the challenges is we have so many people that need those sign-offs right now, but for an exercise to be successful and to really be able to test, does this person know how to set up the ICS 205, et cetera, and all those things done in an exercise format, the attendance is limited on that. And that, obviously that's something we can
It's something to look at, though, I think, it's an opportunity. Just like with field day, we did get everybody there. Can't get everybody to any particular day.
Yeah.
And we prioritize some of the ones who are closest to expiring on need to get their task books done, or greatest need area to stay, if someone enters, whatever. So, just if we fall short, TAs to put in for it. That's a good one to put in. Anything else from the group, from the audience? Okay, thanks, Justin. Thank you. What you needed?
That's what I needed. Appreciate it.
All right. So let's